We're all adjusting to the onslaught of stories and the watching the media not be up to the moment. In many respects, watching many of the Democratic leaders not being up to the moment. It's unclear what we can do to stop this in the short term. Obviously, people can go to the courts. The difference this time around, of course, is that Donald Trump has about 270 appointed federal judges now, which he didn't have at this time in 2017. It's an opportunity for Democrats to take some time to make people appreciate what, it seems to me, what our federal government does. I hearken back to the wake of the financial crisis where Obama supposedly, when he made his turn to austerity, it was reported at the time that he was saying we don't have the resources right now to try to explain to the American public why their deficit hysteria is not as relevant as they think it is. Well, if there was ever a time and an opportunity and a lower opportunity cost associated with making the American government understand that you can call them faceless bureaucrats, but they do stuff. They keep planes in the air. They find out why planes fall into rivers. They keep rivers clean. They keep our food supply safe. They keep our, speculative markets at least somewhat on the up and up. They do. They get the checks out the door. We could go on and on and on. And it feels to me like we're not seeing enough of that. Good for Democrats for boycotting the Senate Budget Committee meeting where they okayed Russell Vogt, OMB nominee, through, and hopefully we'll see more of that. But here's where the media fails. I want you to imagine, and I know, we're going to do this a million times. We did this with Donald Trump the first time around. What if Barack Obama said this? But just imagine if on day one, Pete Buttigieg was in this situation and answered questions like this. MTV, the Real World.
The Real World Christian.
Real World, what's his name? Sean Duffy?
Sean Duffy. This is the reality TV administration.
He is the transportation secretary, and he wants to assure you that planes falling out of the sky, not the plan.
That the helicopter was on, is that a common flight path, and is it normal for helicopters to get clearance to cut across busy craft?
So I don't know if you all could hear the question. It's a question about the flight path of the helicopter. I don't want to go into too much detail about the information we have from the FAA.
Pause it for a second. Why do you think that might be? Do you think it's because that's sensitive information, or do you think it's because he never bothered to ask? But he's going to pretend he did. Go ahead.
Go into too much detail about the information we have from the FAA, but obviously it is not standard to have aircraft collide. I want to be clear on that. But prior to the collision, the flight paths that were being flown from the military and from American, that was not unusual for what happens in the DC airspace.
Okay,
and,
so he just wants to be clear, though. This is not going forward. This is not the standard plan to have aircraft crash into each other.
It'll just probably be an offshoot of the austerity and deregulation that the Trump administration wants to pose. So don't worry, it's not intended, but what we're intending to do is deregulate the airspace so Elon Musk can send whatever junk he wants up into space because he has some beef with the FAA, and whatever happens, happens. Don't worry about it.
Well, let's you can say we don't have an FAA, but let's give Sean Duffy the opportunity to address, who is the acting FAA director? Because of course there is one, right? And
the buck has to stop somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, let's ask him.
Is there an acting FAA director?
Well,
Walking away.
no, but there is somebody who hands out jackets with the words FAA, so I guess it's the same thing.
Ask Doge.
As I said yesterday, Michael Whitaker stepped down as FAA administrator on January 20th, the day of Donald Trump's inauguration. This is The Verge. After clashing with Elon Musk, whose company SpaceX is regulated by the agency. Musk publicly called on Whitaker to resign after the FAA fined SpaceX for failing to get approval for launch changes. And now the power vacuum at the agency comes into sharp focus after an Army helicopter, and they explain the details. Whitaker was only a year into the job when he announced his intention to step down. He had several years left in his term. His resignation clears the way for President Donald Trump to name his own replacement. Trump is basically floating an executive in the aviation industry. Musk, a major donor to Trump, is reportedly helping the administration vet candidates to certain positions and is directing an effort to purge thousands of federal workers from all levels of the government. And while it's unclear whether Musk has been directly involved in picking a new FAA administrator, the billionaire mogul has reportedly been involved in overseeing Boeing's development of the next Air Force One jets. But Musk's effort to get Whitaker were well known even before Trump's victory in November. He complained many times about the FAA, lashing out in September after the agency levied a $633,000 fine for launching missions with unapproved changes. And Musk is worth over $400 billion.
Hold on for a second. A day after this plane crash, the Trump administration decided to appoint an acting FAA
person
administrator.
Glad they got to that.
I mean, that's just...
This is as acute of an example. And again, like, there are a bunch of factors that go into this. But the chaos that Trump just created did not help. I mean, it was chaos for people that needed their SNAP. It was chaos for kids going to school with Head Start. It was chaos for teachers in those schools, for people that rely on the government for health care. It was chaos for all federal employees who didn't know what to do. Teachers wanted to get their checks. They may not have been able to do that. You think that wasn't extended to the FAA? And then you have like the Associated Press basically saying, shoot, I lost it here, but confirming last night, the Associated Press said that staffing was, quote, not normal in the air traffic control tower at the time of the mid-air collision near DC. The FAA report that was leaked to the AP says.
We don't have a crystal ball. We can't tell that there would be a problem. It's not our fault.
We're actually the side with enough information to be stating things. And I want to shout out Pritzker, Governor J.B. Pritzker, for coming out and saying Trump is not fit for this. And also, we need questions immediately about the Elon Musk relationship to these decisions.
Let's play a clip. Do we have it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I saw the text of it, but we can look for the clip of it. But that's the sort of thing, like, it can't be Donald Trump is mean, or doesn't he have empathy for things? Because that doesn't get put in the write-ups for the first reports on it. It is Trump blames DEI, and everybody else is saying, how could you? No, you need to level the charge against them.
Yeah, and the DEI thing, too. Back to your criticism of the media. Why isn't the press going, what do you mean by DEI? Have you drawn a causal connection?
Everybody knows. Why are you even asking that question? Because you're a DEI hire?
Because the initial reporting says that it was white pilot, white air traffic controller, white pilot of the helicopter.
Let's put this press release up.
Was this just like the general idea that they were so terrified that they could be replaced by non-white people that it threw them off? It's a culture of DEI.
Pritzker puts out some questions for the maybe the media to ask the administration, or maybe even Republic. Now listen, Elon, who may be all over this decision, also is going to challenge you in a primary. So If you don't want someone funded with a $50 million war chest for your primary, maybe you shouldn't ask these questions.
Well, this is where Pritzker being a rich guy is helpful for him.
Well, for Pritzker, it's not a problem. But these are questions that need to be asked by a Republican senator.
Oh, that's what you mean.
And
Sorry.
none of them are going to do that. That's why Tom Tillis, we never even got to this story,
Yeah.
but Tom Tillis told Pete Hegseth's ex-sister-in-law, if you sign this affidavit about having to have a safe word for Pete Hegseth's former second wife, or I should say former wife, the second one, and that he was abusive to her, it's going to change people's minds, including mine, said Tom Tillis. And then when push came to shove, it changed 3 other people's minds, but not Tom Tillis's. It's about principle, right, Tom? Pritzker, the Trump administration must answer critical questions that are in the interest of the American public. Was the control tower not fully staffed at the time its crash, as reported by the FAA in a preliminary safety report? Specifically, was the controller on duty doing a job normally done by 2 people? Why did the Trump administration fire members of the Aviation Security Advisory Committee? In light of this tragedy, does the president understand fully staffing federal agencies can be a matter of life and death? This is exactly the
Right.
messaging that you should be having. And he's planning to reverse his unilateral decisions to decimate the civilian federal workforce. I mean, couldn't be better. And Chuck Schumer should be reading off of this. Did Elon Musk play a role in the removal of the former FAA director who had bipartisan support? Why was a replacement to lead the FAA not named until after the crash? I'll tell you why. Because Elon Musk had to interview everybody, and he's probably busy going around trying to break into the Treasury to see how he can steal the technology about writing checks so he can privatize that whole function for the government. But he needs to have an interview so he can make sure the next FAA guy pulls back on all his requirements about what he does with SpaceX. Elon just being Elon. Why was did the federal government authorize Black Hawk copter to fly in the commercial flight path at the same altitude as a commercial aircraft? If so, will federal government continue authorizing military helicopters, et cetera, et cetera? Will the president, vice president, defense secretary, and transportation secretary cooperate with the independent NTSB investigation and correct any misinformation they spread about the crash? In other words, whether it was a DEI hire.
Right.
Well, when was the last time you saw a black guy, fly a plane? I mean, we all know Charlie Kirk told me this is why they were falling from the sky.
NTSB sounds woke.
I mean, why did that door fall off the airplane? Was it because of a black guy? Mm-hmm. Or maybe it was a gay guy? Or maybe it was a woman? You got to have strong jawline to be a captain of a plane.
Look at this guy's central casting.
Okay. Really? We should have Pete Hegseth. If you don't look like... Listen, Pete Hegseth's a 9. If you don't look like a 9 or a 9.5, you're not flying any more planes.
You ever see Top Gun? You ever see Top Gun?
Let me ask you this. Who starred in Top Gun? Was it Wallace Shawn? Was it Harvey Firestein? Was it even Denzel Washington? He's a good-looking guy,
Yeah,
but could he?
yeah.
I mean, would anybody believe that? No.
No. We need our own Maverick. Kind of made him British there.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.